are certain things that you can give and get that enrich your life in ways that you didn't appreciate. A lot of people say they're building a business, but what they actually want is enough cash flow to live a great life. The way to get clients is by not needing clients. Getting things is useful to prove or disprove whether those things enrich your life. Consulting is telling people how to do something, and then the modern parlance of consulting, it's doing it with them. So your traces of knowledge are left after you stop consulting.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another interview. Honored to be joined by the James Kemp today, all the way from Bali, Indonesia. James, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, man. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. So I found you, I think about a year ago, and I actually found the post that like was like, oh wait, this is different. And you were talking about, actually, I have it here. I want to read it. Because, you know, like I get connected with a lot of random people on Facebook and it's the usual drivel, but this stood out to me in that I was like, oh wait, this is like actually insightful. I stuck my desk in the up position. I can't sit down even if I want to. I do my best work standing up. I could sit down. When your life is integrated, the sitting down time bleeds into the other time. I can hear them in the other room. I like hearing the patter. They call out asking me to play. Keeping my desk in the up position means I have to choose the highest leverage tasks. Otherwise, I would be standing here all day. I create that environment that is productive and present for me and the people I serve, so I can create an environment that is enriching and present for them. The more days I spend on the earth, the more I appreciate the little things, the little hinges that swing on bigger doors. I'm on standing here writing this so I can be on for them. And my baby was like not born yet, but he was like 3 months. It was like 3 months until the due date. And I was like, man, there's so much to be said. And your school bio is the Lord of Leverage. So I think it fits along well. And it's a mindset that I've really like done my best to adopt from you as we've worked together and I've consumed a lot of your stuff. So excited to dive into that today because it's just not talked about enough. And the leverage piece is the difference between honestly like living or dying in the online space sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for two reasons. Thank you for sharing the moments, because when I write or create, I create for myself first and one person second. And thank you for sharing that while I'm sitting down, which just makes it.
We'll talk about the many contradictions of James Kemp.
But it's Saturday morning, so and cheers.
Yeah. Okay, so give us like 5 minutes on you. You started you're from New Zealand, but you started kind of your business journey in the UK, right?
Yeah, my entrepreneurship journey, started just over 2 decades ago. So I'm dating myself and aging myself pretty quickly. So, came from the sales world. Worked for kind of blue chips, BMW, Xerox, and some of the blue chips. So came from a sales background and got into finance and started my own finance company where I was, selling financial leads door to door. And then I found this thing called Google and WordPress and started to realize that maybe it was easier to, work with your fingers rather than knock on 1,000 doors a day on council estates in the English winter. So did some reps on the door knocking and then was self-taught in terms of generating leads that I sold to finance companies. Unfortunately, finance companies stopped buying leads, during a financial crisis, and I had to go and get a job and went into the tech sector. And long story short, over 5 years, started as a salesperson and worked my way up to marketing director of a $120 million business where essentially we were a Groupon clone down there in New Zealand, and accumulated that time, the itch to get back into entrepreneurship and take the skills that I'd both built myself, but also built in high volume sales and online sales environments back into helping people do it. And then, took the traditional coaching consulting route, learned from the best and adapted, a lot of those ideas for myself. And then really, learned in the in the mix. Did what I taught, what I did, and did what I taught. And the last few years especially have been the realization that once you've got a set of skills, once you've got a basic skill, that there's a lot of things to chase. There's a lot of shiny objects to chase, but we have the great privilege nowadays of choosing to build a business around our life rather than our life around a business. And in my younger days, it was all about hitting the numbers and getting the targets. And these days, it's about having something that I do that fits my skill set, that ultimately feeds my life rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think that's you have the skills and the mindset of, let's say, or Hormozy or Sam Ovens, but you choose to play in this, some people would call small game, but
Yeah.
2 to 3 million a year, trying to get to 10 with a tiny team and only doing calls 2 days a week is your current goal. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, just jumping in here to give you a quick word on our sponsor, High Level, before we get back to the interview. If you don't know already, High Level is the top sales and marketing solution for any business, but particularly agency owners or anybody that needs a software product to resell to their existing customer base. It has everything you need to capture, nurture, and close leads for marketing clients. And the best part is High Level believes in not taxing the agencies on its platform, so you can get unlimited clients for one low flat monthly fee. The best features include a CRM, funnel, website and email builders, course hosting platform, robust marketing automation builder, a consolidated chat stream with WhatsApp, email, SMS, Instagram DMs, and Facebook DMs, reputation management, social media posting, tracking and analytics, and so much more. And as if that wasn't enough, High Level is fully white labeled, meaning that you can take the platform and put your own brand on the desktop and mobile app and resell it to your industry for whatever price you want. Essentially, what High Level has done is brought the bar for starting a software company way lower, so normal people like you and I can help our clients with an amazingly robust software without paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in development costs. I am not kidding when I say hands down, High Level is my favorite software of all time. It has been integral to my success with my agency. It helped me increase my clients' results and retention, and I use it every single day for my own business. And if you sign up for High Level today, not only will you get a 30-day free trial, which is not available on their website, but you'll get all of the bonuses listed at itskeaton.com/mastermind, which gets you support, templates, and courses to kickstart your high level journey and get those first few clients or scale to your next few clients. If you're already a high level customer, you can also get all of those bonuses by upgrading to the next highest plan underneath my link. Instructions for that are also at itskeaton.com/mastermind. And I think there's more people that need to admit that to themselves, that like that's all they really want. I've heard you allude to that in the past. Like you talk to clients and they're embarrassed about their real income goals because they feel it's too small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did you, like, were you gunning for 10? I mean, you are gunning for 10 million a year now, but with very, very small constraints on that. But were you gunning for the big $150 million business and all the employees and that eventually? And how did that fall apart and eventually reconstruct into your current goals?
I didn't know what I was gunning for. I was gunning for something that gave me meaning and got me recognition and like brushed the chip on my shoulder that of the small boy who was never seen. So I was chasing goals because numbers on the scoreboard, for a long time correlated some sense of meaning for me. And then in the time I was married and I built a family. And then when that came along, it shifted the sense of meaning. So, at the peak, if you like, of, a traditional model, I had a team of 14 and, we were doing just under 3 million a year at, okay margins, and built out the traditional model, but it was all consuming. And, the next up level of skill acquisition, of management, of hiring, of people development, I realized would take me away from my core, which was having fun and making cool shit with cool people. So the game was on, and I've got a big skill base to go wherever I want to go. with
Mm-hmm.
those skills. And, I've had teams of 25 people and, in the middle of, 9-figure businesses. So the game was on to keep growing and keep scaling until, life made me realize that there was life going on that was outside the computer screen and outside the 9 to 8, kind of hours.
And
And there
that
were
was having
skills I didn't
kids.
want to develop.
Was it having kids that made you realize that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you said that there's skills I didn't want to develop. Did you have anyone in your circle that kind of you feel frowned upon you or tried to convince you to go to the next level, or was their respect for knowing what you wanted?
I still do. I think
Hmm.
there's I the choices I've made, especially in the last 24 months. A lot of my friends have large businesses. A lot of my friends
Hmm.
have large teams, and a lot of my friends have secret struggles that they don't want to share with people because they sell that model. And privately, they say to me they're jealous. But they also, I'm not looking to invalidate anybody's idea of what a business is or what life is. I'm
Yeah.
just saying there's a choice about how we build it, and we have to be deliberate to decide the things that are important to us. When I started working with you, I allow places to put truth on the table. What do you actually want? Because
Hmm.
we're all in these environments where a lot of people are trying to self-validate the thing that everybody else wants, and they're like, it's kind of like that Spider-Man meme of like, do you want this, eh? You want this, and everyone's pointing at each other, going, yeah, you want this big agency with this huge team, and you want those things, and then everybody's quietly turning around, whispering, and going, this sucks. The
Yeah.
responsibility, the expectations, the margins, the work, the chase. This sucks. There must be a better way. And I give permission for people not to build businesses
Hmm.
because very, very few people actually want a business and all the things that are associated with it. And until you've been inside these big machines where you can lose yourself, you don't really appreciate what that means. And a lot of people say
Yeah.
they're building a business, but what they actually want is enough cash flow to live a great life and spend time with the people that are important to them, and do the things they want to do, whatever that may be. And, if we break down all the things of my model and my philosophy and those things, it's that. What do you want? Here's some tools that I've got that can help you get there. And I have clients with sales teams. I have clients with setters and closers. I have clients who deliver agency services and have done for you. And I don't judge a single piece of that. I just give them a leverage to ensure that they're doing the things that they want to be doing with the people they want to be doing it with and rewarded adequately for that.
Yeah. So much there. Um, would you say the like you work, quote unquote, work 2 days a week,
I
meaning
do
you're on
client
client
work two
calls two
days a
days a
week.
week?
I work a lot,
What?
including in my head.
Yeah, yeah. You work in your head
Yeah.
on the other times, but you are talking to clients 2 days a week. Would you say that the time talking with the clients you see as like a necessary part of like, hey, I'm selling consulting, so this has to happen at some point, or or does that feel like the art to you? And what parts of what you do you enjoy the most?
All of it,
Hmm.
because I see business as a creative game with a scoreboard, right?
Okay.
This thing we call business. And essentially, the most effective, long lasting businesses, institutions, movements, etc., are kind of rooted in ritual and creativity and and freshness and newness of old things, whether it's
Mhm.
politics or religion or business, it all, or art, it all kind of manifests in the same way. So my goal with clients is to give them the tools that I've accumulated, give them the insight about how they worked for me, and then help them understand how they might work for them so they can go off and run it themselves and we can both learn something. Because if I'm not learning something from an application of and the delivery of a client, then it's not interesting to me. So I
Right.
am infinitely curious rather than trying to gatekeep anything. I'll use you as an example, if I may. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not on YouTube. I don't know much about YouTube in terms of
Mhm.
an organic strategy, I've seen it. I've worked with people who have giant YouTube channels. I work with people who spent, $5 million a month on YouTube ads. I've seen it all, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
participate in it. So I'm infinitely curious about when I help you build a community and start to build some, coaching and consulting offers and these pieces, how you apply those to your world. Because if I can see the insights and they bring them into my world, that makes me better. And the increase in my skill and the deployment of that skill, and the more I'm prepared to let it go, then makes you better, and we're in a happy cycle. So I don't see any of it as work. I just see it as art, and then the science bit. The art is the creativity and the deployment of it and letting go of the ideas, and that's been a 2-decade long mantra for me, of just letting go of ideas, giving them to people so we can multiply them, they can multiply them, and faith and trust in, whoever you believe in, on that spiritual level, that the universe will return that favor and work in all our favors. So I'm always looking for, what ideas can I give people and put out there, and then how can they develop ideas? Because if you do well with my ideas, I do well from the insights that you gain from those, and we all do well together.
Yeah. What a worldview. Like, wake up in the morning and it's not about how can I pad the bank account. It's about how can I share and multiply ideas with cool people that I like hanging out with. Is that a fair characterization?
Definitely. And it's from, obviously it's from a place of, to break the seal on that, you have to trust that the universe has you back. But now it's from a place of deep financial comfort, strong stability, financially and mentally. So it's easy for me to say these things. But it had to start from a place of, if I let my ideas go and put them out there, then I will be rewarded. And the less expectation I had around that, and the less pressure and need I had for that, it's funny that the more I was rewarded for that, over the long term, in the financial scoreboard, that does matter, but can also be blinding when you're trying to manipulate it in the short term. Lots of people are chasing short-term results, where if they allowed those results to happen, then their long-term results would be infinitely better than they're seeing today and tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I'm sorry, this is a bit of an inflection point, but just to relate back to what we were saying and then transition to the next point, I read this in one of your posts recently as well. As a mentoring coach, I'd love to hand over the exact step-by-step template to success. It doesn't exist. We all measure success differently. I assembled mine. Your path can be assembled too. That's the lie that's being sold, is the opposite of that. You need to want the Lambo. You need to want the big house. And the refreshing breath of air from you and others like you is that hey, like, let's just figure it out. It may be something different than you're being told.
It's useful to get the things. I hate shoulds, so let's talk in utility. It's useful to get the things to then validate or invalidate the idea of how important those things are, right?
Yeah.
When I bought a $153,000 SUV that I'd coveted and watched the YouTube reviews of and watched people drive and had the wonderful engine sound, I did it so 4 months later I could prove to myself that didn't actually make me any happier, and it actually introduced a level of stress in my life that was not pressure and was unwelcome. Right? I bought the super expensive watch to wear it around, to be then too scared to wear it in public because it's too expensive and it's too valuable and I might scratch it. So now it sits in a box in the safe.
Yeah.
Right. So it is useful to chase things to then prove or disprove whether those things give you any kind of validation or meaning or what they mean, because some of them do. There are certain things that you can give and get that enrich your life in ways that you didn't appreciate. I live in a pretty oversized large villa in Bali, right? And I always said, I don't need something that big and that fancy. It's excessive. It's too much. We've got space in this office I'm in the corner of, and there's this massive room in front of me because I've got all this space, right? And
Yeah.
then when I started inviting people over and I brought clients over and we sat down and I built an environment where I saw people have breakthroughs that they'd never had in any other ways. And then I'm expanding my family now, puppies, puppies included, to enrich this space. But for a long time, I said I didn't need it, I didn't want it, and all kinds of levels of cope, depending on what attitude I had on the particular day. So getting things is useful to prove or disprove whether those things enrich your life, because you may be surprised when you hit certain goals or get certain things in your life, what they actually lead to and what they actually mean to you.
Got it. It reminds me of another one of your posts where maybe you can provide some more context on this, but you were talking about how hilarious it is to see these like 20 somethings in monk mode, just like head down, doing nothing, not spending any of their money. And you're like, it's going to manifest itself as this crazy midlife crisis at 50. Like, you might as well buy the Lambo now.
Dude,
figure out you don't want it. Like, either way, it's going to be fun to watch. But
their Coke and Hookers era is going to be epic. Because it's this bottling up energy and saying that you can channel it in one way and that will get you to the goal. You know what? And there's enough truth in that for a certain number of people for it not to be disproven. But for many people, these ideas are inherently bottling up energy that could be used in much more productive ways.
Yeah. So would you say the wanting of the material item, like there's some people who would say, don't let that drive you. You have to find your why, et cetera, et cetera. But you and I both know that why can be more elusive than we want it to be sometimes.
Yeah.
What would you like? Those are temporary goalposts that you're okay with being like, I'm doing this right now to get the next material thing. And then that will teach me a little bit more about what I don't want and what I do want.
Yeah. Do stuff like get rich and then see how you feel. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the same philosophy with any kind of growth. I knocked on hundreds of doors every day when I was doing door-to-door selling, right? Because behind each door was the opportunity for the sale, right?
Yeah.
And life is exactly the same. Life is exactly the same. Do things, work out what those things mean to you, and then either do more of them or stop doing them, right? And that's an oversimplification of a very simple philosophy. But I just believe life is very simple. Do stuff, see how it makes you feel, what results did you get, and then stop it or do more of it. And I think especially in societies where there's a lot of high IQ people or, and a lot of people professing emotional intelligence, a lot of people just get stuck in their head about what success might look like. And then they abstract that by looking at how someone else does it. Oh, I don't want a Lambo because I saw a guy who's got a Lambo and he's an asshole, right? I don't want to move to Bali because I saw someone go there and they got a sore tummy, right? So we approximate someone else's experience with ours, so it stops people doing stuff. And this is the amazing paradox I see nowadays. It's like never been easier to start something, and it's never been easier to get rich just from your ideas. Yet less and less people are starting because they're worried about what the future might look like if they do those things, because they're living through other people, because they've got that shoved in their face through social media every single day. And they go, well, if I do that, then this is going to happen. It's like, you don't know. Just do stuff.
Yeah.
Do more stuff, make more offers, take more risks, do more things while you can, and then learn. We only learn by doing.
Yeah. Such a good point. So you listed that you wanted today to talk about who do you need to be successful? Who do you need to be successful online? I'm glad I reread it because I was thinking it's what do you need to do to be successful online? but that differentiation of who do you need to be is huge. And I want to give you plenty of time to talk about it, but I want to ask this question first. What would you say in terms of like financial security? What were the levels for you where different levels of abundance or just being able to like breathe and look around and kind of focus on this becoming mind frame? When did that unlock for you? Obviously, it would be amazing if everyone could unlock that earlier. And I think they'd ironically progress faster if they could do it out of abundance instead of out of need. But yeah, talk about your own journey there. And then let's dive into the journeys of what other people might look like.
Yeah, I think each step of the journey, if I reflect back, whether it was from job to entrepreneurship, back to job, back to entrepreneurship, was essentially finding replacement value, as I call it. So I work with a lot of people who are kind of have the golden handcuffs. Like they're coming out of a particular place where they're making good money, but they feel trapped in it. So we work on replacing that level of income with an income that they actually love doing and a much higher effective value rate because they have multiples of leverage. So rather than earning 150 grand a year as a, as a VP, you're earning 150 grand a year, as a consultant, and you're working 85% less, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was the levels of abundance were matching the income of the previous step, but getting more time back. And that allowed me to be then more creative to take the next step. And a lot of people chase the income increase rather than chase the time increase. And the times where all the magic happens, the times where all the creativity, the uniqueness, the development, the building actually happens. But people are focused on the work because they directly correlate the work with getting the income, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I was coming from, 100 and what was I on when I left Grab One? About 160 grand basic plus bits and pieces. So say it was 200K by the end of the year, right? I had to walk in to consulting gigs that paid me at least that, but I could get those consulting gigs and I could do them in a day and a half a week, right? So I went from a 60-hour-a-week marketing director with all the responsibility in the world because it was a 24/7 operation. Daily deals was that. It is that. Into a place where I could do that and then I could have the time to build it. And so in the each step up, as long as the lifestyle didn't expand, and it did, to fill the void of surplus in the income, then I was always just looking for how can I get more time back? How can I get more time back? But for the vast majority of people, they are comfortable right where they are now at that 10,000-ish a month is the comfort level, and then the desire kicks in, because then it's all about the individual being perpetually dissatisfied. And I'll tell you where I sit now. I'm on a run rate of 3 million, just over 3 million a year, right? I haven't had a full year where I've done 3 million, but I'm ahead of that run rate. And by the end of the financial year, I would have yielded over 3 million out of this current business at 90+% profit margins.
Yeah.
My reach to 10 million is not through need. I have financial abundance. I have vehicles where I investing that money and where it's going, and I know the purpose of it. It's to play the game more and to stretch the scoreboard. So as I sit here now, I don't need more than that, but I desire it because I want to work out how to do it under the constraints that I've got. And I can clearly see the path to about 5.5 million with the current product suite, what I do now, with very little alteration and just optimization. I can't see the path, but candidly, I can't see the path beyond that. The technology, the leverage, and those things will come to me, and I have no timeline and I have no goal on that. So for me, it's always been about replacement, putting the time in, getting the time back, and then understanding where that time goes to then take the stretch and go,
Yeah.
what's next? Where do I really want to go? And like honestly, especially there was a 4-month period this year. We're 7 months into the year. There's a 4-month period this year where the season was cruise, right? Just cruise. Growth, pushing, scaling it was not, just wasn't feeling it. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's a privilege to be at when you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in every month.
Yeah.
But it's also, paying attention to what season you're in.
Yeah. Oh, just it goes back to the worldview of I'm just here finding and multiplying ideas. And when I wake up one day and I'm not feeling the growth or whatever, I just like, because your model is very much dependent on you because you have very little team members, the business kind of has to grow with you, comma, and that's okay. Like it has to grow when you're feeling good and it has to cruise when you're feeling like cruising. Um, is there ever still that sense of like I'm getting behind? Does that creep in, or do you like have you
Oh
learned to
yeah.
stave that off?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And the more you fill your world with like super smart clients and super smart friends, the more you'll feel like I'm missing something here. Like,
Hmm.
I feel behind the curve on YouTube. I feel behind the curve on AI. I feel
Hmm.
behind the curve, and then I just tap up smart people and go, what am I missing here? Like, what can I see? What can you see that I can't see? And what do you think I should be doing? And just be, I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. So like, I've got an idea and I know how these principles apply, and I work from principles. But how does
Hmm.
how does that layer over? So yeah, I always feel behind, and I always feel a certain level of dissatisfied. But then I check in with myself on a daily basis about what I'm doing, who I'm doing it with, and why I'm doing it, to ensure that I'm actually in the driver's seat of my life rather than than living someone else's life because I've convinced myself there are better things out there. Because there's lots
Go.
of good ideas out there, and there's lots of very, very convincing people telling you that their idea is the best, right?
Hmm.
And they've got, we have all got very good at this, myself included. I have convinced, if you like, many people that a one-person consulting business is, the panacea and definitely the future. And for many people, that's correct, and for some, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like your model when I started with it, I was like, this fixes every problem. Like it's amazing. And then you get a few months into it and you're like, okay, there's some drawbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, what's this? But I was just talking to my
Well,
wife
so
the other
can I
day.
ask? Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Do you know what dials to tweak within it? Now you've got it going.
Well, for me it's been a little weird because without trying, the affiliate income has gone to a point where I never dreamed it would be.
Yeah.
And it's just faster, easier, less effort, like the most leveraged thing I could do, and it's recurring. And so I'm like, what does the I enjoy the one-on-one, but also there's part of it that's just a grind for me. And so I'm also in cruise mode where I'm
Yeah.
like, can I just back up? And but I'm what I took from you and I'm still taking is like there's your consulting model or your agency model, whatever it is, like literally is completely up to you. So your thing about like stop de or stop demonizing selling your time. Like if you're selling your time for 1,000 an hour, like that's a great effective rate. Just sell like 100 hours a year, $100,000 if you have some saved. Like you can have a really amazing life with very few work hours. And like, why would anyone demonize that? So that for me is like, I do enjoy one-on-one, but I was getting, I think, caught up in too much, like too many beginner conversations where I wasn't enjoying the monotony of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of recalibrating and figuring out like how much of the beginner conversations I want to be having versus the higher level, like, hey, let's take this from 50K to 100K instead of let's take this from 0 to 5.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ways I look at that, and this may be useful to you, is do I want to stop having these conversations, or do I want to change the forum that I have them in? Right.
Mm.
So for me, beginner conversations are much more useful in group environments where
Yeah.
I can teach by demonstration through an example, because the distribution of that idea is far more leveraged. Because if there's 40 people on the call and they all take something away from me working with one person, then the amplification of that is both more valuable to that individual, but also the people who are there. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, the amplification of that and the satisfaction that I get is much higher. I'll have beginner conversations all day long,
Yeah.
but one of my clients who does 52 million a year, I ain't dropping them in a group and saying, what are your current problems? And, how are your 44 team members operating today? And, what are the numbers and what are the KPIs? We do that via WhatsApp and jump on a call when we need to, because he
Yeah.
needs me when he needs me. And the
Yeah.
availability of that is proof of value. So for me, I go through seasons where I don't want to speak to people one-on-one. And usually if on reflection, it's accumulated stress of letting people too close to have the same repetitive questions. And there was no feedback loop of energy to say, okay, I've had this conversation 5 times this week and
Yeah.
I'm fatigued by it because I'm not getting anything back from it. But
Yeah.
high level problems or expensive problems are much more satisfying to solve, because then the amplification of those problems is much more satisfying. And oh yeah, we got back and one tweak in a client's offer made him an extra 1.1 million, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like solving problems at scale, that didn't happen in a
Yeah.
group call in a school group. It happened on a phone call, and then a follow up Zoom where we're pushing things around and writing words. So for me, I'm always looking to change the modality, and understand why I'm in that place where I'm not enjoying something because the energy's not there.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's seeing the result for me that makes it worth it.
Yeah,
And so that's like one-off calls. I had a ton of those when I first started out. It was just like one-off call, and then I literally never hear from the person again. And I was like, that was not worth the money that I got paid for that, because I need to know the outcome, even if it's bad or whatever. Like this person, they just never report back, and obviously you can reach out to them and usually get a report. Um, and I love those ones. Like I ran into somebody last week just at a like local meetup. He's like, dude, we did a consulting call like 4 years ago. I was like, oh really? Like, was it any good? And he was like, yeah, I'm doing 30K a month
yeah,
now or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's awesome. Like,
yeah,
I wish I knew more of those stories. And so for me, I'm sort of like, I don't I don't want to be on all the time and have to be forced into calls at a specific time or responding within a certain time frame. So I'm trying to figure out, is it just like a season of the year where I do that because it's fine for a while? Or is it more like taking equity in a few businesses and like really being on the front row seat of like what the consulting that I'm doing is changing for them?
cool.
But I'm luckily in a position where I've, again, the accidental affiliate income has gotten to a point where it's opening up my abundance and mindset so much that I can take that time that you were talking about and just take the sabbatical, figure out what's next type of thing.
Yeah. We learn through contrast, right? And
Yeah.
what your journey is helping you see is the value in the affiliate income, which helps you
Mm-hmm.
define it and put it in a place where you define it and how much work and effort you want to do to grow it or maintain it, or whatever that your decisions are.
Yeah.
And then to put yourself in places of contrast to say, okay, I'm coaching these two people one-on-one. One-on-one is the consistent thing, the same modality. The variable is the people. This person I'm
Yeah.
enjoying working with. This person I'm not. They've both got the
Yeah.
same thing, but they're different people. And
Yeah.
I was defining this on I have a syndicate group who get calls with me twice a week
Mm-hmm.
around that these businesses are offer driven but human powered. I can show someone how to make the best offer in the world from it's easy to sell bit. But the effect of that offer in terms of the delivery of it, the stress, the energy, whatever it is, and subsequently how long it's going to last, selling easily and being fun to run, etc., depends on the humans you put in it. And in the knowledge economy, that's pretty much defines almost everything. If we make good offers, people will buy them. If we work with quote unquote bad people, which is just people who aren't optimal for us, then those offers won't last and sustain, and they won't give you the results you want. And so many people will blame the offer rather than their decisions and their commitments and their participation around it. It's easy to get people to buy stuff. But even if I called 100 people today and offered them $1,000 on the phone, you wouldn't have 100% close rate.
That's true. And it sort of reminds me, and maybe this is just me realizing this in 2024, but I feel like 2024 is the year of the quality lead. Like, look, I don't care about how many come through. I care about how many actually have the money. I don't have to arm wrestle into a sale. Like, I'm too old for this type of thing. It's like what I'm hearing for most people, even if they're not old. And that plays out on the other side, obviously, with how difficult they are to manage or how much energy they drain, etc. Who do you have to become to be the person, or how do you attract the quality leads and the quality customers, even if you're a beginner?
There's two levels to this. The first level is solving old problems new ways, right? And so the first level is old problems new ways. Just means there's certain things that aren't going away. People will always want to look better naked. Businesses will always want more leads, more sales, more money, more revenue, more profit, better team members, etc. So a lot of people are trying to solve new problems in new ways, and no one understands what the heck they're talking about, right? So look at old problems. What problems that can be solved and what desires are in a marketplace, a category that you have permission to play in, as in markets are built inside out. I came from an e-commerce world. And so my first clients were e-commerce because I could talk the talk, walk the walk. I could build inside out because I had market knowledge. I knew participants. I could speak the lingo, and I knew what I was talking about. So which old problem can you solve in a new way in a category that you got permission to play in, right? And permission to play in might just be going into that category and busting in the door and getting your first person to actually solve a problem with and deploy a skill. New way means I've got a unique mechanism that sits over the top of this old problem and I'm solving it, and that's how I'm going to get your interest, right? And so owning and branding your unique mechanism is really critical because it differentiates you in a commoditized market because lots of people are trying to solve those problems. But when you combine those two things together, you get a multiplication effect, a compound effect that's much bigger than 1 + 1. If you help people lose weight, but you've got a new mechanism to do it, combining the old problem with the new way will get you far more attention and far more buy-in and far more application of those people, because humans have base desires, but they also need stimulation and they need newness and they need certain levels of dopamine or something new in terms of doing it. So they need new ways to try and solve those problems. The second level is the way to get clients is by not needing clients. The way to get money is by not needing it, because you're fulfilling your own needs first, and you're in a place where you don't need anything from anybody. And the closer you can get to that state, the more that will flow in, because you've got capacity for it. And in the world of commerce, the pushiest, most aggressive salespeople tend to make the least sales because they project the most need, and need doesn't flow to where it's deserved. It flows to where there's capacity for it. So if someone feels like that the only reason you're doing something is because you need the money, they're unlikely to give you that money. But if someone feels like you're doing this because you love it and you care about them, and that the result is the only thing that matters, then the money is just the transfer, of that same energy. And if you remove the need in yourself for validation through money, through clients, through being seen as the smartest bastard in the room, then you'll find that power is actually accumulated indirectly by giving it away and allowing other people to have theirs. And your power is the fact that you don't need any of it, and you don't need any particular person to make you feel whole and complete on that particular day.
Yeah, it's so true. I was talking to a friend earlier today about how I don't even see what I do as a business anymore. Like there's no ego wrapped up in it. I'm not like, I'm an entrepreneur, that chip on your shoulder you talked about. I'm like, I found some money glitch on the internet and it happens to be working out for me. And that feels infinitely more powerful than having to parade around like I know what I'm doing.
There's a beautiful gratitude wrapped up in that, right?
Yeah.
It's that I was, that idea that, I was given this opportunity, and that everything's working in my favor, and here I am, and it's meant to be. And there's a beautiful gratitude in that, which just says, I'm the luckiest bugger on earth because I get to do this, and this is happening for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. So along those lines, I feel like a lot of beginners who we may have lost already at this point in the conversation, but even a lot of advanced people, all they talk about is revenue, revenue, revenue. Like, hey, I can help you make more money.
Yeah.
And going to the quality lead conversation, something I've learned from you is the right people have specific problems that the wrong people don't have, and specific desires that the wrong people don't have. For example, I was working with a client in the orthodontic space, and he was saying how his orthodontist that he loved the most, that was like the most qualified and just closed the most people and had grown like 2x since they started working together on his Facebook ads, was he had gotten more efficient over his 30 years of being an orthodontist, and therefore he was able to take on more patients. And I was like, that's the perfect hook for an ad. Are you an experienced orthodontist that has gotten more efficient over the years, and you want to fill the spots so that you're getting as much leverage as possible for the days you're spending in the clinic? Let's lead into that. But on your end, I feel like you've given me permission and others permission to be like, yeah, I don't have to be thinking about business, doing business, having my ego wrapped up into my business 24/7. In fact, it's better if I don't. And arguably a more powerful desire for that right person, the orthodontist with 30 years of experience, for example, is here's how to spend more time with your family, not here's how to make more money. It reminds me of another hook I heard years ago that was like, don't sell the dentist Facebook ads, ask the dentist. Like, you got to talk to the dentist about why the hell they became a dentist, and like talk to them about how to get out of that because they're probably miserable. Yeah. Like, even though you may not be selling biz ops to dentists, there's a lot of people that need a different approach or need to be pitched in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the thing I talk about is currencies, right? And so there's predominantly an offer creation, like 3 pretty simple currencies. One of them is almost infinite, and 2 of them are measurable. So there's just money, in biz op and business coaching, and even in agency world, you are selling money, right?
Mm.
You give me $2,000 a month to run your Facebook ads and build your funnel, and I'm going to give you $20,000 a month worth of business back, right? It's just money arbitrage. You give me small amount, I give you big amount is the promise. Then there's a time factor, which also leads the energy factor, is that at a certain time, people have a feeling of enough in terms of the money category, and they feel like they can move to a time category, that they want time back. But what they're really doing is wanting energy back. So and I don't like any of the language that we all use around low level and high level and good and bad clients and people, because I don't, my findings is none of those things really exist. They're just perspective at a certain place at a certain time with a particular individual. But they're useful in the designation of this. But high level people want energy back more than anything, right? Because we have a finite life, and we understand we have a certain amount of energy, life force energy, and we have a certain amount of time to use it, and we want to use it to the best of our abilities. And then we have meaning around the things that we use our energy for, ourselves, our family, and these pieces. So the selling of energy is, to that orthodontist, we just need to give them ways to measure it, right? Ways to measure energy is, you've been in business for 20 years, and it used to take you 5 days to serve 40 patients, put 40 patients in the chair, and now you can do that in 2. And then it gives them and then you can spend the other 3 days playing golf with your family, and planning your retirement out, and I'll help you plan your retirement out and an exit for your orthodontic business, and and how to have enough cash flow for the rest of your life, and so you can have intergenerational wealth that you pass down to your children and your grandchildren, right? And then they can then they're starting to build a picture of, okay, I'm going to use my effort and that I've put in over the last 20, and that competence that I've built by being able to serve 40 patients in half the time, into the things that matter to me, and you paint a picture of that. And that's what copywriting does, right? It just allows us to paint a picture of the future that doesn't exist yet for someone, and then allowing them to be make it relevant to themselves. So the low level, the surface level is selling money. The secondary level is selling time to some degree. And the infinite game is being in the market to sell energy, and then using the modalities that we have to do that. And, in terms of service and delivery, there's only really, 4. And you just mix those modalities based on your skill set.
4 modalities to sell energy, you mean?
4 modalities to serve. So we've got coaching, consulting, mentorship, and service delivery. Right? And service delivery is just, I'll do this thing for you. And it is nothing else. I'll do this thing for you. I will spend $10,000 a month on Facebook ads for you to this funnel, and this will happen. You will have leads in your calendar, and you call them on the telephone, right? Yeah. And it kind of ends there. We wrap a lot of stuff around it, but service delivery is just doing something for somebody. Okay. Mentorship is, this is how I would do it. So my high-level mentorship is people asking me how I think about things and how I've done things in the past that have got success that they want to replicate. And I say, this is how I do it. This is how I think about it. Consulting is telling people how to do something. And then in the modern parlance of consulting, it's doing it with them. So your traces of knowledge are left after you stop consulting. Your system, your ideas, your philosophy is left there because you've done it with them, and it's been embedded in the business.
Got it.
And coaching is help someone see that they've already got the things inside them to do the required action. Help someone see and give them insight enough to actually get them to do the thing that they need to do, that they're telling you that will ultimately move them forward. And we switch between those modalities naturally. Like, a lot of agencies do a ton of consulting, but they don't get paid for it. And that's a gigantic opportunity for almost every agency to have a consulting level in their business that just does consulting, and actually monetizes it because it's very high margin and high value work and business. And so people, I unconsciously do change between those modalities when they're being a coach or even being an agency owner or being a consultant. But those modalities, when you actually understand the what they are and how to deploy them, it opens up a world of opportunity about how you can actually use them either as individual products, sell them as individual products, but also serve people better in that time. You've been on my group calls, with folks, and I ask permission to consult to them. Like, if I've got time and space, I'll coach someone, because that will leave the longest lasting legacy, because they'll be able to do it themselves. If we don't have time and they're floundering around, it's like, can I just consult to you and tell you the answer and you go and do it? And 99 times out of 100, they say yes, right? Because they're looking for the life raft out of it. But when you use these modalities, you can serve people a lot better. But in the process of that, you serve yourself a lot better.
You serve yourself a lot better. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Because why? Why are you serving yourself better with those modalities? Because
you're setting the correct expectations, and life in a human world is about expectations. And if you coach someone to do something, but you're actually telling them what they want and what to do, and you think you're coaching them, but you're actually consulting to them, you're setting an expectation that this thing is going to be right for them, rather than allowing to discover it themselves. And that will downstream have an effect on their application of that piece, their results from it, and ultimately their desire to continue it. A lot of people have told a lot of people to do things in the hope that it was in their best interests, that turned out to be damaging. And if you set the correct expectations with people and yourself, then everybody is clean and clear going forward, and there's no overhang into areas that can then blow back in either party's lives.
Got it. It's I think a big theme of you in general is like self-confrontation and self-honesty. Like, you lie to yourself, you'll lie to your clients, you'll lie to everyone around you, and you're always going to be living with that cognitive dissonance until you have to face the music one day and realize that it's been you, the bowling ball crashing down, everything in its way.
That's the benefit that I have of being old, right? I'm an old man in a young man's game, in the sense of that I can see what's coming because I've been there, and those places, and I provide a huge amount of value to people in my world because of that, because I can see over the horizon, because I've already stepped over there, and there will be monsters, and I can tell you not to go over that one, but maybe we can guide you towards this one, which might be preferable.
So how does somebody get to the point of being able to solve the energy problems? Like, what I have in my mind is the agency owner that's saying, give me little money, I give you big money. Mm-hmm. But there's a big asterisk there, which is you have to work 10 more hours a week to get this next level of money. And once the client realizes that, they quickly cancel because they don't want to sift through all the bad leads, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
They didn't realize all this stuff came with it. Can you speak to that? Like, how do I become the person that can consult the orthodontist on the retirement strategy and that whole thing, which feels like playing in Disneyland compared to 10 of these Facebook leads never answered the phone, and like, I'm canceling right now, which does not feel like anything like Disneyland to most agency owners, and part of the reason that they're getting burned out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm gonna default to the strategic answer for this, but one of the major things that I help and nudge and encourage and occasionally force people to do is sell a future identity. It's very difficult for people to do things if they can't see what they lead to, right?
Yeah,
and it's very difficult for people to ask people to change in terms of behaviorally unless they can have some sense of who they change into, and who they ultimately become. And in the agency world, there's a lot of talk about what you can do for people, but there's very little talk about what that actually adds and what that actually brings to them in terms of at that life level. And that's just about abstracting and understanding that if you're an orthodontist who, in this initial period, if you work an extra 10 hours a week, in the future, you'll get 20 hours a week back to play golf. That's a different conversation, right? It's putting the truth on the table and saying, as you'll agree, Mr. Business Owner, this requires investment. We require investment of time, we require investment of money, but you'll get this back in multiples down the track because we elevate you from operator to chairman in the business. And he's going, I'm an operator right now. I'd love to be a chairman, but I need to invest something in the way. So it is getting the truth on the table and saying, these are the things that you want. This is the price we have to pay to some degree in the short term, but this is the payoff. Because when you become the orthodontist chairman, then they start to go, I'm just chairman of the board and I'm playing golf and I'm not then in there the day to day pushing the buttons and chasing the payments and those pieces. So the identity layer in marketing, if you like, and in terms of positioning, is one that's often neglected because we focus on the functional things that people do in the short term. But when you start introducing that future identity piece about selling people on and indicating who they become, not only do you convert more people in the front end because you're taking away the risk of change, but you also get better buy-in in the application of that delivery because everybody's agreed that there's a bigger payoff at the end because everybody's up-leveled in the process of doing it.
Got it. So it's about figuring out what that vision is so that you can paint it for your client.
It's not figuring out, it's giving it to them, because the brutal truth is most people lack vision for themselves and for their lives. But if you can paint a picture that's desirable to them, at least lead them toward the promised land and they understand it. And you know what? The orthodontist might find that he starts playing golf, but he's better off that he actually loved, volunteering at the dog shelter. But you gave them the space and the time to do that, but via, a mutual investment, and you both committed to play the game. So giving them a future identity is about spelling that out about what they become and who they become, and then allowing that to unfold and allowing them to discover it. I have a concept called the sovereign consultant. I'm selling people on being a sovereign consultant who makes $1 million profit a year in 2 days a week with 65 clients or less, right? You know what? When you get there, how you do it, what you want to enjoy in the teams. If you want to work 3 days a week, go for it. But at least we got to it. At least we agreed on the endpoint, and we both understand that the map isn't the terrain, and the system I give people is like a coloring book that you buy. I give you guidelines and boundaries, and don't color outside that line, but the colors you put in between are completely up to you.
Yeah. And
with help,
sorry?
With help, of course, and guidance.
Yeah, of course. Final question there. How do you put in your outreach or your content? Like I'm thinking of someone who messaged me last week. Hey, Keaton, if I could add $50,000 a month to what you're doing, $50,000 a month in your business, and in the next 60 days, like my immediate thought, and I would consider myself maybe someone who's dealing with higher level issues at this point. My immediate thought is that sounds exhausting. Whatever it is you're pitching, like I don't really want it because I don't need it. And I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like the more you don't need the money, the more money will come to you. But that's the same, like the clients that people really want are the people that aren't desperate for the extra 10K or the extra 50K. They're desperate for some sort of need inside them. What's your advice to someone, just like an easy way to start implementing that in their outreach or their content or their ads?
Outreach is an interesting one because most people, their goal is to drive a conversation, to do some convincing and some showing. So if I was to do cold outreach, and if you ever catch me doing cold outreach, come over here and do something terrible to me. But if I ever did cold outreach, I would be sending it to someone who I believed would be the ideal person that I could deliver a result for that I'd already delivered. So if I was demonstrating to you that I could give you $50,000 extra a month and get you 15 hours a week back, I would send you a demonstration of that. I would send you a demonstration of, this is Bob. He's an orthodontist. And we got him an extra $50,000 a month while cutting his working hours of this. And I would demonstrate Bob on a camera that was chilled and having a natural conversation about telling his experience and doing it, rather than saying, I can do this for you. And the frame is that a lot of people try to be is the hero of someone's journey. But if you make your clients the hero and you the guide, it's funny how the quality of what you do and who you work with goes up dramatically, because you've allowed people their own power and you've allowed them to tell their story, and then you're just inviting more people to obtain that power and tell that story. So much of the outreach I get is just terrible because someone wants to tell me something that they don't know if I know it or not already. I get ones all the time. Would you get to 20K a month? And I was like, I would have had to screw up a lot of stuff right now to get to 20K a month. I'd be going really far backwards. But that's what cold outreach has become. But a lot more, I think, a lot more demonstrating, a lot more showing, and a lot less telling, and a lot more force would get people a heck of a lot further, with greater people that are going to propel them a heck of a lot further than they think they're even capable of now.
Yeah, the word demonstration is what was coming to mind as you were discussing all of that. Demonstrate in your content, demonstrate in your ads, demonstrate in your outreach, and you don't have to sell. Like, it's just not.
I'm not the first person to say this, but changing your content from how to how I, or how Bob, or how Keaton, or how Rob did this, will have a unbelievably profound effect for a small change in the response that you get to that communication.
Yeah. And those stories it goes back to like the Sam Ovens interviews back in the day. Like those were more valuable than the Sam Ovens course, because I was like, oh, they did this tiny thing at this moment, and that I'm in that exact moment right now. And, the course was helpful too, but the epiphany bridge, even though it's not an epiphany bridge, the epiphanies that come from the conversations and the case studies are infinitely more powerful than just the principles sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I would humbly say that people learn more from modeling me than what I teach them.
Yeah.
And anybody who's a parent will understand this, very either directly or instinctually, that you are what you do and what you are in front of your children much more than what you say to them. Get off that phone as you spend 6 hours on your iPhone doesn't work. Get off your phone when you're not on your phone. And they can observe that is the way to get that behavior in. And it's the same with clients. Treat them like children. Is that the message? Okay, sure. Let's go with that.
It makes me think of multiple times in your community this year. I'm like, I'm just excited to see where he takes this. Like, I'm going to learn by the stuff he starts implementing, the stuff he stops implementing, how he switches this around. I can get on the calls, I can go through the course and the workshops, but the demonstration is like, oh, that's cool. I didn't think of that. And it sticks too. It sticks more than the conversations we've had,
Yeah. I just ran, an experiment over the last 3 weeks in terms of an offer, and next week I'll be breaking that down about what really happened and what it actually looks like. And then there's still the unknown piece about what that, in an offer-driven model, what you want is for that offer to lead organically and naturally to the next offer. and so far that offer from the first offer to the second offer converts to 50%. And that's a big breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
Getting people to give you $300 and 50% of them giving you 3,000, within 3 weeks after that is a significant breakthrough. But on the surface, people can copy the $300, and plenty of people have. But the next level is, well, how did that actually work, and what actually happened behind the scenes, and what are the subjective things in that? What kind of people came through it, and what are they doing, and what are the problems, and what they're learning? So yeah, the modeling has multiple layers as well in terms of because a lot of people delude themselves that they have perfect information. They see that person doing that, and they're going to funnel hack them and do that, but they don't actually understand the outcomes downstream. And so modeling is multi-stage and also has a lot of depth to it as well.
Okay, I know you need to take the puppy to the beach, so I'll close with this question.
It's a big day.
Yeah, big day. Expectations, you alluded to this earlier. It's the downfall of this space, because it's not about it's not about that the results weren't actually good. It's just that somebody was expecting something different, most times because you told that to them or you implied it through maybe a testimonial or some other kind of marketing that you're talking about. However, you still have this big vision you give your clients, and that's the ideal that everyone's striving towards. How is that different from go from 0 to 100K in X time frame, and why do you do it that way?
The Purple Book got a lot of people to escalate offers, to make big promises, and repeatedly over and over, and over a decade of doing this thing, I found small promises with big vision would outsell and outdeliver and over deliver on expectations much more than anything. And so if you work hard on the big vision about what happens and what they become, and you paint a vivid picture of the future, then you're only saying that the small promise that you're going to make is the first step on that journey, right? And then, together you'll work out the terrain. So for a lot of people, for most people, this is much more effective than big promises, because big promises are just by definition harder to keep, and there's more variables in them. But small promises are easier to deliver on, easier to start, and I found easier to sell as well. Because if you use an example, if you go to, since we're talking about orthodontists, well, why not? If you go to an orthodontic clinic that's getting 2 leads a month, and you say that I can get you 40 booked qualified appointments every single month, on autopilot without touching a single thing, that experience doesn't feel close to what they're doing now. It feels like it comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of stretch and a lot more work and a lot more stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you say you're at two inbound leads a month, and I'm going to get you to 4, that feels like a positive first step,
Yeah.
And then ultimately we're moving towards a state where you're getting this many inbound leads, but you're only working this time, and then we can start to introduce different currencies. So it's about understanding that a small promise is easy to keep and easy to sell at the beginning and easy to deliver, but it's a small promise on a step into a larger vision.
What's your small promise?
I'll get you an offer that you can sell with your thumbs on a Google Doc. And if we do it to one person, we can do it with 100.
Got it. And then the big vision is the 2 hours or 2 days a week, $1 million a year.
What does that mean to you? Where do you want to go with it, etc.? Let's get some results together first. Let's put an offer together that you can sell, in ways that are effortless to you compared to maybe what and how you've done it before. If we get one, is there belief that we can get 2, 10, and 100?
Yeah. It's like your weekly pricing thing, which is just lower the now number. Instead of $1,000 a month, it's $250 a week. So people can get in, but it's the same with believability. Like, lower the now believability. Like, do you think we could have an offer that you're ready to sell next week? Yeah, that's believable. It's actually what I want, versus pie in the sky, guarantee 100K a month in 2 months. And, nobody hits it because they didn't do the 12 things every single day on the guarantee.
It's the
um,
tale as old as time.
do you, yeah. Do you get people asking like, because I struggled with this when I like defined the big vision, which for me was like, it was like 200K a year. You're working 20 hours a week on your agency and like you're taking home 200K a year. And I would get a lot of people being like, well, how many people have done that? And, um, is that something like, how do you do it? What's the model? Like they get fixated on this vision as if it's the gospel truth when really it's just like, look, if it's 150 for you, not 200, that's fine. Do you get that kind of thing? And
No,
if so, what do you say to it?
I don't get it at all. But
Okay.
I have a distinct advantage that I am my own case study.
Mm,
So if I put my own mask on first and do fun things with fun people and make lots of money, I just say to people, do you want something like this or your
yeah.
version of it? And they go, okay. And if you don't have that advantage, which is extremely meta, like do what you teach and teach what you do, then you only
Yeah.
need one example. You know,
Mm,
I've seen plenty of cases where someone's just got one ideal case study that they leverage to get 100 more of those people as the ideal case study. So the
got it.
magical number in the course of demonstration is usually one, right? Because one leads to two.
Yeah.
And if you can demonstrate that you can do it once, and you can demonstrate you understand the principles of success in that, and the strategic level of mechanisms, and the vision level of an identity that you paint a picture of, then you will have more results and more case studies than you can shake a stick at. But it all started with one, and you know, I've got rich by getting other people rich, right?
Yeah.
It's and the more I work to that ideal and then layer enjoyment over the top of it, then the better it all works for everybody.
Very cool. Um, okay. So you have a book. Tell everybody where they can find the book, and then we'll end this thing.
TheSovereignConsultant.com. It's a book. It will tell you how to build a $1 million consulting business in 2 days a week or less. And I'll show you. It's a proper book, not one of these like, hey, here's some vague ideas and buy my next course, $9.97 course to do it. It actually tells you how to do it for $10.
But it's also not that long, right? It's like 90
68
pages.
pages.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
68.
And it's got a couple of videos on the other side of it showing exactly how to do it. So people can get the how-to for $10 or 100,000, right? And a lot of stops in between. But I'm always like, this is how to do it. I give away the ideas, and then people will take them where they need to take them, and some choose to get my help along the way.
Love it. James, thanks so much. Enjoy the walk on the beach, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.